Let's begin the Civil War and Reconstruction unit. The first unit for trimester 2. We're going to be looking at the question of how would you maintain a union? This is going to be looking at what you need to know in the Unit 1 intro. To begin with, this was a continuing struggle between the North and the South, going all the way back to the colonies. The manufacturing-based North against the agriculturally based South. If you look at some of the differences between them, the North had larger groups of immigrants, more urbanized, and no slaves, whereas the South had fewer immigrants. Most of the factory-type jobs were by skilled slave workers. It was a much more rural area, and of course, they had slavery. Well, that division is going to create some problems. First thing I want you to do in the discussion that's attached is to come up with a one-sentence summary using 3 of these terms. Hit pause now and come up with a sentence. Hope you got a good sentence there. A couple people that we're going to look at specifically in this era are people like John Brown and Harriet Beecher Stowe, what we called the abolitionists. John Brown pushed for violent protest and led to a massacre in Kansas, where slavers and non-slavers fought at Potawatomi in a bloodbath between pro and non-slave believers. Harriet Beecher Stowe was a nonviolent protester. She wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, which became a huge success among the abolitionist groups. Another big issue between two people in this time period was popular sovereignty. This was the idea that the people who were living in the cities and states should be allowed to vote whether they wanted to maintain slavery. Abraham Lincoln obviously took on the anti-popular sovereignty side of the debate in several debates as he was moving towards becoming president. Stephen Douglas took the side of popular sovereignty when they were running for state senator of Illinois. It's in 1861, after Lincoln becomes president, that the Civil War begins at Fort Sumter, when Confederates fired the first shots of the war, and it would go until 1865, when at Appomattox Courthouse, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant. Finally, we'll look at Reconstruction. After the South loses the Civil War, there is going to be a social, economic, and political reconstruction. The legacy of the Civil War will become a big part of how the South is, or in many cases fails, to be reconstructed. Andrew Johnson succeeds Abraham Lincoln after his assassination, and the plan for Reconstruction struggles, especially because of the social divisions, where trying to rebuild this agriculturally economic system with social inequality and political fallout made the Reconstruction issue very difficult. All right, in vocabulary, we'll actually be looking at 3 different chapters. That in 9, we're going to break up chapter 10 a little bit into a couple different sections. And then chapter 11, which looks at the actual war, will be kind of a quick chapter. And then finally 12, which is about Reconstruction. Some of the things that you're going to want to focus on in this time is beginning with manifest destiny, how that manifest destiny led to political divisions. We'll start off by discussing an idea of manifest destiny and who, what, when, where, and why, and how it was. We'll also look at a section on the causes and effects of the Civil War. There's the causes, there's the effects. And then finally, we'll end that with kind of a review of Reconstruction and why it failed, looking at the physically, the economic, the labor, the way of life, and the political ramifications of this. And then we're going to close up with a little comparison of how emancipation was different than the 3 amendments, 13th, 14th, and 15th. And lastly, why Reconstruction failed. That's it for now. Please answer in the discussion that one-sentence summary of what this unit is about.